The protagonist buys an old computer for a good price in a garage sale, for whatever reason, possibly for flipping it for some profit or just hobby. As he connects the computer to a monitor, he is happy that it turns on just fine, with the lock screen having an image of a child called Liz celebrating her 8th birthday, which was taken in 2000. She is seen sharing the birthday with her dog called Scotty. Managing to sign into the computer, the protagonist is confronted with the wallpaper being of Liz and a friend of hers called M, who seem to be older than 8 here, being around 15 years old. There are several apps on the screen, with the protagonist managing to access the buddy list being an online chat app. The username suggests that Liz was around 15 at the time when she used the computer, having the name Alone Girl 15, which is excusable as there was a period of time we all had a face like that. Despite this chat app being old, the protagonist is surprised to find out that it's still operational, with a user called Orion being active till today, chatting with the protagonist, thinking it is Liz. The chat takes a strange turn when the user explains Liz had rituals with them. Being really invested, the protagonist digs a little deeper, trying to find the passwords for the other apps and folders, going through the other chat histories. Opening the chat with another user called Eternal Juice, they had interacted with Liz with a way too familiar opening chat, ASL, which was a common way of asking for age, sex, and location back in the day when we used Yahoo Messenger online chat rooms. Liz answering that she is only 14 years old. The other user gets excited, saying something strange in return, that they cannot wait for Liz to join them, as if referring to some sort of culty group, going back to what Orion said about having rituals. The chat history with her BFF, M, reveals that Liz had a crush on a guy called Lawson. Being her best friend, Liz confides in Emily everything that she feels, including something crucial, that the weight of schoolwork and exams really make her feel bad, and the parents' pressure doesn't make it any better, with her wanting to find a way out of this life, or Earth finding something better. She drops some hints in the chat that she has joined a group in an online game called Otherworld, which seems to be the culty group that performed rituals. This leads to Liz speaking less and less with Emily, which worries her. Eventually, they speak some more, which reveals parts of the password to access the folders. The chat's history also includes Lawson, whom Liz spoke to for a while, displaying the pressure that they are under by their parents, which leads to Liz stopping to talk to him, which Lawson worrying about her, not seeing her in school for a while, and saying how people are gossiping about her, how she has been doing strange things. Going over more chat histories exchanged with someone called Scott, it's revealed Liz joined the cult through the online game called Otherworld, which worshipped the deity known as Baphomet. Scott explains performing certain rituals won't free Liz from the world, but rather would enlighten her consciousness and ascend her beyond the world. This explains how Liz was not joking when she said that she wants to leave Earth, as she was in contact with a cult who promised Liz performing certain rituals and joining them, she would ascend from the universe and be truly happy. This leads to the images in the locked folder being accessed now, with the protagonist going over them, finding an image of Lawson, the boy Liz had a crush on. Going over more photos, it reveals the order of things Liz did with the cult to perform the ritual, including a Baphomet statue and creepy images. As a result, going over the chat histories with Scott and Emily once more, it reveals that Scott told Liz that he won't leave her through the process, with Liz using corrupted funds, saying how she is alone and afraid, with Scott not responding anymore. This is consistent with the corrupted funds used at the end with Emily, how she explains to her that the ritual worked and she's still learning how to control it, as if she is in the open digital world. So it seems from the first glance as if her consciousness ascended into the digital realm, hinted at through the corrupted fund that she uses. Emily of course thinks this is some sort of a sick joke by someone who hacked Liz's account, given that she hasn't spoken to her for a while, or someone who got a hold of her computer, not believing it is actually Liz. Accessing a note which was used as Liz's diary, she goes on talking about her struggles with her single mother, who seemingly emigrated to USA for a better life for her daughter, but not being used to having a child, struggling as a mother, and being single. She treats her very poorly, calling cops twice on her, once for thinking that she's missing and another time blamed for thinking that she's doing drugs because she spends a day at school's library and some time in her best friend's house, Emily's. The mother apologizes to her for being too tough on her and saying really mean things, that she is broken and not having anyone else in her life is really tough on her as well, not being a perfect mother but still being a mother who cares about her daughter. Nonetheless, Liz gets entangled with the wrong crowd, being introduced to Scott through Orion, who introduces her to the cult, which would eventually lead to her disappearance, performing these supernatural rituals, which at the end, she even says how she doesn't want to leave this world without a specific someone, despite being young and stupid and saying things like she wants to leave this planet for something better. But it seems when she performs the ritual, it is too late, when she even cries to Scott that he promised not to leave her. Talking to Orion once more and convincing them that the protagonist is Liz, they give the protagonist the invitation code to play the Otherworld game, which the protagonist finally manages to sign into. Just before that, he gets an eerie video call from Orion, which sends shivers down the protagonist's spine, but he dismisses it and he continues with the game. As he signs in, Orion notices that he isn't Liz when the game explains how vast it is, being a virtual world having three principal elements. The cube representing community, which connects all, the pyramid representing structure, which holds the community, and the sphere, which represents creativity, which keeps the community alive. It then takes the protagonist to a disco, which instructs him to make any friends that he wants, when all of a sudden a ghostly figure approaches him by the username of AloneGirl15, which was the username of Liz. This ghostly figure welcomes the protagonist and leads him to a subfolder called the Nexus, which contains many different worlds. In Nexus, Liz leads the protagonist to the House of Baphomet, the deity figure which the cult worshipped. As the protagonist follows her there, the texts instruct the protagonist to follow the instructions of the one who came before him, meaning Liz's. Reading about 4 people who are referred to as friends lost in the outer world, the text suggests that they will never be forgotten in the virtual world. These people are called Greg, Aurora, Jordan, and Sarah. It seems these were some of the people who joined the Baphomet cult in the online game of Otherworld, where they lost their souls to this virtual world to become eternal. After performing some rituals and using the photos of Lawson and Emily, the tasks are completed and Liz directly chats with the protagonist. She explains it has been a long time and that she hasn't spoken to a human, being so glad that the protagonist uploaded the photos of her friends, which now means a lot to her after not having the privilege of seeing them for so long. She continues what happened to her and the others after uploading themselves to the internet, specifically this game. After being approached by Scott, she decided to upload herself after a fight with her mother, which at first was great because the game had many visitors, with thousands of new people visiting the game and communicating with Liz and her group of friends. They created many things in this world which made it wonderful. But slowly, people grew older, had other responsibilities and families of their own, never revisiting the game, leaving the group of Baphomet followers all alone in the outdated virtual world. Liz's group of friends couldn't take this solitude any longer and decided to delete themselves from the game, but as she explains, how could they ever delete a soul, as performing the ritual binded their soul to some sort of system file, which despite disappearing, Liz would occasionally hear them screaming in agony and despair. Liz explains how she is the only one left and she is disappointed in her decision of merging herself into this world. She explains how she misses Emily, Lawson, and her mother, despite things not being perfect, and how she grew out of her childish fears of always wanting to be pretty, being afraid of bad grades, fights with her mother, and much more. But now, she has something a lot worse, the lack of all of that, and all she has now is an eternal solitude which she dreads. Despite all that, she is happy that someone performed the ritual, meaning the protagonist will have their consciousness transferred into the game as well, giving Liz some company. Just then, Lawson, who has been sending Liz a message every year after she died in the real world, explains how he misses her and how he has been seeing her going online and offline all the time, updating her on his life's new events. But now, he believes it's time to move on, being confused why she always gets online and offline when he says goodbye for the last time and signs out when the computer crashes, with the protagonist seemingly teleporting into the game. So it's not clear if Liz died with her physical body being left over in the real world, or if she completely disappeared. As the way Lawson speaks, it seems as if she disappeared, as he explains he has been waiting for her to come back, which means she was vanished. But nonetheless, she had a grave to commemorate her passing and disappearance, with her mother believing that she died. The chat with Lawson and the short conversation with her best friend Emily suggests how broken they became after her disappearance, which leaves us to wonder what sort of tragedy it must have been for the mother, someone who immigrated in the hopes of a better life for her daughter, even though she barely speaks the language, willing to be in a foreign land alone with not many friends, struggling to communicate with others. It shows what a big sacrifice she made for a better future for her daughter, so it's not clear how much the mother suffered after Liz's disappearance, something she regrets doing herself as she was young and stupid. But now it is too late, and the protagonist seems to have made the same mistake unknowingly, transferring his own consciousness into this virtual realm. Anyway folks, this brings us to the end of the video. I truly hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, it's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day.